All right, man, peace. So now this is going to be part two pertaining to the LeBron James and Kevin Durant interview with Kerry Champion. Now Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman are going to talk about it, and of course I'm going to chime in.
Sports Center right now. For the first time, thanks to the NBA All-Star Game's new format, LeBron James and Kevin Durant will be teammates. But before this weekend, back on January 14th, James and Durant spoke with our Sports Center anchor, Kerry Champion, about life, family, and the current political climate. And in the interview, both NBA stars were critical of the president. Kevin Durant went on to say, "It's all about leadership. I learned that playing basketball. I learned a lot of life skills from playing basketball. You need to empower people. You need to encourage people. That's what builds a great team." And
I still can't believe that Kevin Durant had the nerve to talk about leadership. I'm flabbergasted by that. It just shows you how much he lacks self-awareness.
I feel like our team as a country is not run by a great coach.
These guys are so caught up in their feelings. This is why they're not fit to be leaders. A great leader cannot get caught up in the feelings of others. When you're operating on a macrocosmic level, you cannot worry about the quibbles of ants. No disrespect. No disrespect. But you cannot worry about the quibbles of ants when you're trying to operate on a macrocosmic level and do what's best for all financially. By no means am I saying that Donald Trump is a great president or a good president or a bad president. I'm not speaking on his presidency. But pertaining to the contentions of a Kevin Durant and a LeBron James, they lose validity and any type of credibility with me when their contentions are all based in their personal feelings and emotions. When I hear someone talk about a president and state that they don't like the job he's doing, then you have to point to something economically. You have to point to something strategically or logistically, not emotionally. I'm not concerned about how he's quote unquote separating the country or dividing the country. Those are the ramblings of a Negro that wants a hug. Sorry, sir.
Coach. Now let's get it back to First Take.
Great job by Kerry and the guys there. So our president doesn't understand the people. He's not a good leader, a good coach. Talk to me, Stephen A.
Well, first of all, I want to applaud both LeBron James and Kevin Durant for doing.
And I mean, shit, just going by what Kevin Durant says, then Donald Trump must have something in common with Kevin Durant's old coach in Oklahoma City, because he said a lot of the same things about him. As a matter of fact, Kevin Durant trashed most of his former teammates on OKC. So maybe he's not quite the leader that he's trying to make himself out to be.
Doing that interview, and most important, and just as equally important, is giving it to Kerry Champion. It was nice to see LeBron James sitting there with her and talking to her.
That was another shot at LeBron James. As I've told you guys before, the reason why Stephen A. Smith is coming down so hard on LeBron is because LeBron will not give him a sit-down interview. That's all it's about with Stephen A. Smith. You see, he stated it's nice that they sat down with Kerry Champion, especially LeBron James. Basically, he's trying to accuse LeBron of only wanting to do sit-down interviews with non-blacks. The black pundits in the media, they love to pull the color card whenever they're not getting the access that they feel like they deserve. Stephen A. Smith spends most of his time during the weekday slamming many of these young black athletes, and then he gets quizzical when they don't want to do sit-down interviews with him. He calls them all type of names and claiming that they're not competitive, that they lack heart, and then he's wondering why they don't want to speak to him. Sorry, sir, you're not a media member anymore. You're no longer a journalist. Now you're basically a commentator. It's a big difference. When you're a commentator, you cannot marvel. When you speak your mind, you speak what you feel like the truth is, or you speak your perspective, and you alienate people from you. That's a part of life. The truth separates people. It does not bring them together.
And she did a great job. Let me be very, very clear. When you think about what LeBron James and Kevin Durant articulated, they could not have put it better.
Well, they could not have put it better from their woke perspective. Yes. If you're a two-dimensional thinker and you're woke, then you love what LeBron James and Kevin Durant said. They sat in the car. They called Donald Trump a bum. They said that he's not a good coach for America, that he's not bringing people together. Normal, basic, low-level shit. No disrespect.
I'm really not here to add to what they said, because I think where they said, what they said, where they left it at, is where, as a nation, we should pause.
No, the nation is not going to pause at the words of LeBron James and Kevin Durant about Donald Trump. Nothing against them, but they're just two brothers with an opinion. They happen to be on television a lot because they're tall and they could jump high.
They are not talking about politics. They are not talking about policies that are being in the process of being implemented or may have already been implemented on Capitol Hill.
Well, that's your claim. I don't see that. I believe that they are talking about politics and policies because Trump's politics and policies are associated with his perceived lack of decorum. Whether it be his statement that he's going to put up a wall to stop illegals from coming into America, that's part of the anger, the vitriol from the liberals in regards to Trump separating people, quote unquote, or no, not living up to the ideals of America, allegedly. You know, since I've been a child, the president has talked about illegal immigration. Since I've been a child. That shows you that all the times that Reagan and Bush and Clinton and Bush Jr. and Obama were talking about the illegals, they were full of shit. Because now that you finally have a president that's talking about illegal immigration and actually decided to try to fulfill one of his talking points, he's supposed to be a hate monger. I don't get involved in it one way or the other. That's not my issue. It's just interesting to me that when a person decides that they're going to do what they claim they're going to do, if a person said, I'm going to kill 15 people and they go out there and do it, you should have taken them seriously. If you didn't take them seriously, that means that you expect people to lie to you. So all the time that these other presidents talked about the problems with immigration, you didn't take them seriously because you expected them to lie. What does that say about the office of president and how it's perceived? I think people's real shock is that this man made so many quote unquote outlandish statements and promises, and he's actually trying to fulfill them.
They are not talking about Republican or Democrat. They are talking about an individual. And what they're doing along the way, whether tacitly, directly, or otherwise, is reminding us of as a nation what standard we were taught the highest office in the land was supposed to hold. You know, this is the kind of thing when Max is going off, or I'm saying what I'm saying, or...
And both of you combined, what you have to say amounts to absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. The office of president is a corporate title. It's not a title of rulership. It's not even a position that is supposed to inspire, in my view. Many of you out there might work at a corporation. Does the president of your job inspire you? I don't think so. You give them their due honor and respect when you see them. The honor and respect that you give them is that you're doing your job. You're not hurt per se if you receive a memo or email stating that this person is going to step down or retire, or that they're getting relieved of their duties. You go about your business. It's the same with the president of the United States, who's pretty much been a figurehead for a long time now. The president of the United States really has been a figurehead since the mid 1800s, if we're going to go there. Certainly the early 1900s.
Others, people want to get lost. And one of the things that I'm not going to allow to happen, I'm not going to allow people who support the president or the president himself to hijack the issue of what LeBron and Kevin Durant was alluding to.
There's nothing to hijack because they didn't say anything. So there's nothing to hijack. All they did was call him a bum. They didn't say, here's what we'd like him to do differently. And once again, LeBron James is a supporter of Hillary Rodham Clinton, the same female who said that young black males are super predators. LeBron is guilty of being woefully uninformed.
The way that he hijacked the Colin Kaepernick issue, okay?
He didn't hijack the Colin Kaepernick issue. He forced the NFL owners to make a decision. They were pussyfooting around, and he put his foot down in regards to that issue. He made them make a decision because Donald Trump implored his number one demographic, that being conservative Caucasians from Middle America, to basically extort the NFL by telling them, if you don't do something about these kneeling niggas, we're not going to watch the game and it's going to cost you your money. That's what he did, and I told you guys that from when he first did what he did.
Okay, that issue was not about the flag. It was about a host of things mainly law enforcement relations with minority communities. And
these niggas still don't get it. They still don't get it. You can't say that the protest was not about the flag when people was getting on their knees when the flag was revealed or when it was exalted during the national anthem. So yes, it was about the flag and it was about the national anthem. So-called black people love to tell Caucasians that they don't have the right to tell black people what they should be offended by. And as usual, like the bad girlfriend that liberal blacks in America are, they love to do things to their spouse that they don't want to have done to them. This is why I compare the rapport and the relationship between white and black in America to a dysfunctional relationship between a man and a woman, with the so-called black people playing the female. They love to throw tantrums. They say that they're getting abused in their relationship, but they won't leave because they're scared that they're not going to be able to find a significant other that will provide for them the way that they feel like this current significant other provides for them, and they're scared to go out on their own. And they keep trying to change the narrative. Sorry, but that protest was about, or partly about, the American flag and the national anthem, period.
Things of that nature. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that what you're talking about is a man who happens to hold the highest office in the land, who is the leader of the free world.
Allegedly. I don't even know what that means. The leader of the free world. Like, what does that really mean to you? If the world was free, you'd be able to own land without going through a bunch of red tape and rigmarole. You wouldn't have a social security number. You wouldn't have a birth certificate number. Like, no, sir. I don't know if you understand this system.
That has given a large segment of our populace the impression that what matters to you doesn't necessarily matter to him.
I have a hard time believing Stephen A's sentiment that a large segment of the population has beliefs and worries that don't vibe with the president, especially since he's in office. So clearly his message was resonating with a very large portion of the American population.
By virtue of rhetoric he's tacitly endorsed, rhetoric he's espoused out of his own mouth, or the level of insensitivity that he has exhibited. LeBron James and Kevin Durant at no time mentioned policy, at no time mentioned politics.
Because they're not informed or educated enough to speak on those things, Stephen A. I mean, it's no disrespect to either one of these two brothers, but are they watching MSNBC and CNN? No. They're watching ESPN. They're watching Colin Kaepernick get down on one knee. They're watching you guys talk about all that shit. Neither one of them dudes are sitting back watching CNN. It's no disrespect. I know people say, how do you know that? Ain't no, neither one of them niggas watching CNN. Just knock it off.
What they said is, you, that specific individual, is in office conducting himself in a way this nation taught us should never be tolerated.
That's interesting. Has this nation ever taught us that the people on TV are actually about what they talk about? Or has this nation taught us that politicians get on television and say what they want to say in order to get what they want from you, and then do what they really want behind closed doors? Once again, the true reason why people are so incensed about Donald Trump is that he actually is about what he states. And he makes a lot of statements that people are offended by because people like to be lied to. They like to be told that you're patting them on the back when in reality you're trying to rub a poison into their spine. But they don't care as long as you tell them nice things. There's very, very unfortunate aspect of America that people like to be lied to. And that is why people have so much trouble in interpersonal relationships, because everybody just wants to lie and see who they can get over on and troll and so on and so forth.
Yet you put him in office, and you don't seem to mind how he has acted in the year plus that he's been in office.
Stephen A. Smith is so full of shit. I'll bet money that he voted for Donald Trump.
But you're going to look at a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old or a 28-year-old, or in LeBron's case, a 33-year-old, and you want to hold them accountable for every little thing they say and do and how they behave. But
well, that happens because this is not our kingdom. We got to get our own, brother. We got to get our own. But once again, liberal blacks are more concerned with gaining credibility and validity and acceptance from the Caucasian than they are from each other. One of the things that I do agree with LeBron on in that interview is when he stated that so-called black people do not want to see other so-called black people excel. All right. And let me specify, there's a good amount. I think that so-called black people, they get a bad rap sometimes about not wanting to see each other succeed. A lot of it is based in the fact that the average so-called black person is extremely talented and very gifted. So unlike in other race groups where they see a certain member of theirs excel and they say, wow, that person can do something that I know I can't do. Amongst so-called black people, it's pretty much the sentiment that they feel like they could do what this other person is doing because our people are extremely talented. But there is a sizable demographic of our people that don't know how to be happy for someone who's doing well, for someone who's happy, for someone who's excelling. So I do agree with that. But there's also a portion that know how to congratulate, but it's all based on what you're doing with your life. Are you trying to sharpen your tools? Are you trying to refine your gifts? Or are you more worried about what the next person is doing or not doing?
But a 71-year-old man or older who happens to be our commander-in-chief, no accountability in that regard. It's problematic, and they highlighted it, and I applaud them for doing so.
I believe that Trump has been held accountable numerous times. It's just that they have not found anything to stick on him yet. To be quite frank with you, a lot of the borderline harassment that the liberal media has done towards him has only made his name bigger. He's damn near become like the white version of Tupac. The more you come at him and he gets away with it, or you're unable to pin anything on him, the bigger he becomes. Because it's very obvious that the liberal media is attacking him because he will not conform.
What LeBron and KD are talking about is corruption. And let me be very clear about what I mean by this. First, there is, like they say, that right now the team doesn't have a coach.
Yeah.
What is that? Well, I mean, listen, this coach, if he were a college basketball coach, would be under NCAA investigation, the metaphor right now, because there's an ongoing investigation, for the biggest infraction in the history of college basketball, right?
Oh, it's normal liberal hyperbole, a bunch of bullshit. These people are so incensed about Donald Trump being in the White House. Once again, that is what gives him much of his appeal. Donald Trump's potential criminality pales in comparison to the criminality of Ronald Reagan and George Bush and William Jefferson Clinton. Believe me, those guys were billion-dollar drug dealers. Billion-dollar drug dealers, those three guys. And in regards to Barack Obama, that dude was putting hits on people in Chicago, allegedly. Particularly the ones who know about his quote-unquote secret as a homosexual.
All right, like this, what's going on now, collusion with a hostile foreign power, is incredibly important and scandalous and serious, and that's ongoing. But that's not the corruption they're referring to, guy.
Yeah, collusion with a hostile foreign power. Okay. Yes, because there were certain factions of the Russian media that were espousing for Trump. But you know what's funny? There were certain factions of the French and the British media that were trying to promote Hillary Clinton. Had she won, would they have accused collusion with those countries?
Two guys. The corruption they're referring to is a moral corruption, is a corrosion of the moral leadership that the President of the United States is supposed to show.
Well, then you know what? They should have fired the leader of ESPN a long time ago after you guys tried to promote Michael Sam and Caitlyn Jenner as heroes, because that is a corruption of moral leadership and of morality.
Now, there's something called a bully pulpit, and that's one of the most important components of the presidency of the United States, that they have what's called a bully pulpit. It means a position, a platform, a conspicuous position that allows you to speak and influence people.
Yes, much like yours, sir.
And from that position, it is true others in our past have, in that position, have dog whistled to racists, have sown division for political gain. That has happened before, but never as overtly as this.
No, sir. As a matter of fact, I believe that Trump is probably one of the lesser racists if you understand the history of America. When you talk about certain presidents who've had the Ku Klux Klan come to the White House, you've had presidents like Ronald Reagan, who was closely affiliated with and associated with the Nazis, as was George Bush. William Jefferson Clinton, who, like I stated, was running a cocaine business through Arkansas. I mean, the list goes on and on.
And there are many people who have come in from the margins in American life, minority groups, who were excluded from mainstream American life for years.
And still are.
Who right now feel as though the advances that were made are under attack. Because there is...
Yes, the liberal blacks feel that way because they thought that they were getting closer to that hug. I've noted that already on this channel. That's really what the liberal blacks are upset about in regards to Donald Trump. They thought that they were getting closer to being able to hug you, Max Kellerman. And when Donald Trump came into the White House, they said, oh no, now we're going back to the days of Woodrow Wilson, when he was inviting the Klan to rally at the White House. That's what they're mad about.
Is kind of blatant signaling to others, really the white mainstream, how else can you phrase it, that it's okay. That it's okay to, that there's a permissive kind of atmosphere that makes people feel unsafe. Others from minority groups feel unsafe.
Good. That means that it's forcing Negroes to face the truth. Good. When somebody gives you permission to be who you are, all they're doing is doing you a favor. They're performing a favor for the so-called black community. If President Trump tells certain Caucasians, demographics of affluent Caucasians or even lesser Caucasians, I give you permission to be who you are, and they reveal themselves to be quote unquote racist, they're doing you a favor because that would have came out anyway. It just would have came out down the line. I don't like to be in an environment of hypocrisy. I don't need anyone to lie to me. That's an insult to your intelligence when people lie to you. They're telling you that you're not strong enough or intelligent enough to deal with the truth.
And I think they are expressing that feeling, that there's been a corrosion in terms of the moral authority of the bully pulpit, that it's being used at cross purposes.
The other thing that we can't ignore.
Well, first off, let me say this. Trump understands who his constituency is very well. He knows that there's a large portion of America who has felt disenfranchised the previous 8 years under Barack Obama, that there was a large portion of conservative Caucasians who felt like their wants, their desires were unheard, unmet. And that's what we spoke towards, and that's what we should speak towards. When Barack Obama was running for president, he spoke towards the so-called black man and black woman who felt disenfranchised. You're always going to speak to who you feel like is going to vibe with you and who is going to resonate, or who your message is going to resonate towards. That's natural. Look, I'm not an insecure person, so I don't worry about Donald Trump's message towards conservative whites. That's not for me. I don't care. They can have a nice day. So-called black people need to be concerned about being galvanized by each other, not by what the quote-unquote mainstream is going to say or what they think about them.
And they didn't use the words, but I'll use it for them. There's a fear factor in all of this.
Of course there is. All you liberal blacks are fearful that you're not going to get that hug.
And the reason why there's a fear factor in all of this is because we're supposed to have standards. I'm not going to sit up there and excoriate the president of the United States to the degree that other people are doing it, because I'm just not going to use this platform to do it. But
No, not only are you not going to use the platform to do it, but you also don't feel impassioned enough to excoriate him to the degree, because off camera, being the low-level economist that you are, you understand that he's done good things for America in regards to the flow of currency. You know that, Stephen A. Smith. By your own admission, economically you're conservative. And I'm sure that you voted for Donald Trump. I'm sure that you did not vote for Hillary Rodham Clinton. You can stay on TV and talk all the shit you want to talk.
But it is important to recognize the fact that when you conduct yourself and you seem to be oblivious or disinterested in upholding and uplifting standards,
Well, I'm not sure what standards he's not upholding or uplifting, unless you're talking about the inclusion of homosexuals and transgenders. If you're talking about so-called illegal aliens, look, that's not my fight. I don't get involved with the DACA stuff, but let's be very clear, as Stephen A. would say. The real reason why Donald Trump is under such heavy fire in regards to the illegal immigration is because most of these corporations are powered by illegal immigrants and their labor. They provide a proverbial slave labor force. When you can bring a Mexican in or someone who has snuck over the border and pay them $4 or $5 an hour, $6 an hour, and they're doing twice the work of a Caucasian or a so-called black person that you would hire here in America. Twice the work, and they're working double the time. Do you know how that reflects in your bottom line? I mean, it's unbelievable the effect that having that type of labor force has. So of course the corporations are going to plant news stories that state that Donald Trump is a racist and he's terrible for not allowing illegals into the country. They should. It's fucking with their money.
Yet you get over 62 million votes. It's not just about that individual who's in office. It's about the millions upon millions of people who support not just putting him in office, but seem to turn a blind eye and a deaf ear to the behavioral aspect of things.
Because most of it is petty. Like this new shit about him sleeping with a porn star. Who gives a shit? Yes, he slept with a porn star. A lot of these females in America are porn stars. They just do it off camera. Who gives a shit?
But they're quick to hold everybody else accountable. We are a sports network. We're here. This is a sports show. So let's stick to sports.
I agree, because that's what you guys are paid to do. A lot of you ain't even qualified to stick to sports.
If LeBron James said half the things the president said, if Kevin Durant said half the things the president said, if any player in the National Basketball Association or the NFL remotely conducted themselves in the fashion that he has, they could potentially be ostracized from the sport entirely. They would.
Well, your statement, your argument makes very little sense, sir, because they don't have the same job description as the president of the United States. It's the same argument that people tried to make over the Jamel Hill statements in juxtaposition to the Sarah Huckabee Sanders statements when Sarah Huckabee Sanders stated that Jamel Hill should be fired. They tried to equate the two, not understanding that Jamel Hill's job is to talk about sports. She's now talking about politics. She's talking about politics, and she's making racial allegations towards Donald Trump that, quite frankly, unless she had information where he was using the N-word or things of that nature, she was not qualified to make those statements. Now, we know that the Trump family has had issues with housing and so-called black people back in the 70s and the 80s. As I've already stated, Donald Trump comes from a family that is based in a lot of Nazi ties. All presidents have Nazi ties, believe it or not, going all the way back to the 40s. They all have Nazi ties, even Obama. There is a Nazi shadow government that has been operating in America since Operation Paperclip. Okay? A lot of people might not like it. But, I mean, if we're going to open up people's file, let's open up everybody's file.
They wouldn't have brands. They wouldn't get endorsement deals. There's a lot of things that they would be ostracized from.
I want to pick up on that.
Yet still, when it comes to him, obviously as the president, who happens to be a billionaire, there are certain things you can get away with.
Obviously. Thank you, Stephen A. So then you never should have brought up that scenario, brother.
But you never expected him to get away with it to the point where people are sitting idly by and saying, we don't have a problem.
I want to pick up on that because we have discussed in the past how if someone who worked for this company said some of the things he said, that would be a real problem. So why should others be held to a standard that the president of the United States can sink below? That's actually part of his appeal, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Because many of his supporters, it seems to me, like the fact that he will fly in the face of political correctness. And by the way, I'm sympathetic to that idea. Everyone has to regulate their speech so carefully and be so careful of everyone else's feelings. Yeah, the PC culture.
Oh, please. You guys thrive off of the PC culture. What PC culture is perpetuated and stimulated by super liberals And the only time that they come against quote unquote PC language is when they want to come against an issue that is held up by political correctness. But in every other situation, they want to maintain political correctness. That is where the liberals lose a lot of steam and they come up as hypocrites. When it comes to the so-called conservatives, they have their own standards of political correctness. It's just on the other end of the spectrum. So everyone operates according to a certain standard of what they call quote unquote political correctness, which is just a filter. The issue is that the media has created a universal filter for everyone in America that has trickled down into the corporate structure. And now people cannot express themselves properly because they have invaded the job market and the corporate structure with demographics of people who are in environments where they do not belong. You have women working around men in male positions, male-oriented positions. You have homosexuals working around heterosexuals. So now everyone is on edge. But it's hilarious when super liberals like Max Kellerman and Molly Qerim have the nerve to bring up political correctness when their whole careers are based on maintaining political correctness.
Sure. And there's a backlash against that, and insofar as he represents that, I understand the appeal to some. But I think what LeBron and KD are, when you dig deeper, are saying here is you can be politically incorrect and still not cross the line.
No, sir, because everybody has a different line. So that's not possible. You either don't concern yourself with political correctness or you do.
Where the insensitivity toward others, like some of the PC culture, there is some use to it, where people who have been marginalized, whose feelings have never been taken into account, are now taken into account. And someone who is willing to trample that, or to give the appearance, at least to many, that they're trampling that.
You just made my point. You said the appearance to many. That means that he offends you personally. That's what I mean when I say everybody has a different line. So you cannot worry about political correctness. Either you do or you don't. Now, there is such a thing as what they call quote unquote decency, where you hold another person's feelings in regard. You try to put yourself in their place, what they call empathy. Now, that's a different issue. That's a different statement. But the line of political correctness is going to be determined by what you feel like is proper, what they call propriety.
KD and LeBron are responding to that. It's not okay.
I'll end it by saying this. There are going to be supporters out there of the President of the United States that are looking at us right now. It's like, we don't know what the hell you're talking about, because guess what? What facts do you have?
Well, we already know you guys have no facts. That goes without saying.
Those are folks that are thinking about things like policy and what have you, and we're not getting into that. We're not getting into the particulars of the actual job he's doing. What we have consistently talked about, at least what I have consistently talked about, is the behavior.
Yeah.
And the behavior and the residual impact of that behavior on our society as it pertains to various communities,
Yeah.
That are outside the white community.
Well, look, we're going to end it there because they pretty much said what they had to say. Peace.